Part 1. The Sentence That Changed Everything. My name is Sara Whitlow. I am 61 years old, and the night my life shifted, the porch light outside my little adobe house in Santa Mesa, Arizona, hummed like a cricket trapped in a jar. It was the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. The dishes were drying in their rack, and chamomile steamed in my chipped blue mug. I had spent the evening wrapping small gifts for my grandsons, paper dinosaurs for Eli, a puzzle for Jonah, and set them in a neat row on the sideboard. I was smoothing a corner of tape when my son's voice floated down the hallway. "When is she signing, Tess?" "We can't keep feeding her regrets." I froze. The study door was nearly closed, but the gap was enough for his words to slip through like smoke. Michael, my only child, the boy I raised on overtime shifts and grocery coupons, was pacing. Tessa, his wife, answered in that effortless, even tone she used when she wanted something. "She'll sign when you stop tiptoeing. Put the documents in front of her, smile, say it's for simplifying the estate." She hates conflict. She'll fold. There was a soft clatter, glasses, maybe a pen, and then Tessa again. "And once the transfer on death deed is filed, the house is ours. We rent it, pay off the cards, and finally breathe. My house. The only place that still smelled like lemon oil and Rita Coolidge vinyl in summer. The place I nursed my mother through her last winter. The place Michael learned to walk between the couch and my outstretched arms. I felt the steam from my tea cool against my face as something inside me tilted and locked. I didn't barge in. I didn't accuse. I placed the mug on a coaster. After a lifetime of carefulness, habit is heavier than shock, and went to my bedroom. I took down the metal tin where I keep important papers. That night, for the first time in years, I listened with a pen. I listed what I'd heard. I listed dates, accounts I knew, questions I didn't. Then I wrote a quiet sentence across the bottom of the page. I am not powerless. At dawn, when the desert turned its pale pink, I brewed strong coffee, watered the rosemary by the sink, and dialed the number on a card I had not used since my mother died. Aisha Rain, attorney at law. "Sarah," she said, her voice clear as bell glass. "How long has it been?" "Long enough that I hoped I'd never need you," I answered. "But I do." By noon, we were sitting in her office, the sun drawing a thin gold line across her desk. I slid a folder forward, the old life estate deed my mother and I signed a decade ago, a copy of my will, and the revocation of a power of attorney I had once foolishly granted Michael after my hip surgery and then rescinded when I healed. Aisha read quietly, the way good doctors listen to lungs. "Here's the backbone," she said, tapping the life estate. "You hold a present life estate in the property. No one can force you out. No transfer on death trick can leapfrog a vested life estate. And because you revoked that old power of attorney, your son has no authority to sign for you. If they try to file something, we challenge it. If they try to pressure you, we document it. Calm wins. Paper wins." I felt my shoulders drop, just a fraction. Calm wins. Paper wins. "What do I do tonight?" I asked. "You act like a woman who knows her house is anchored to the bedrock," Aisha said, sliding me a slim recorder. "And you gather evidence. Dates, texts, drafts. If they bring documents, ask to read in good light. Photograph every page. No drama. Let the truth take notes." I slipped the recorder into my purse and went home to make soup. When I opened the door, Tessa was already at the table. Her smile was bright and empty as a showroom bowl. "We brought something to make your life easier, Sarah," she said, laying down a stapled stack. "Pure convenience. We'll take care of the bills and maintenance. You just relax." Michael rubbed the back of his neck, not meeting my eyes. "Let me get my readers," I said. In the bedroom, I photographed each page with careful hands. Transfer on death deed. durable power of attorney, new, broad, hungry. A signature line with my name printed beneath like a dare. When I returned, I placed the papers on the table and set out 3 bowls of soup. "I'll have Aisha take a look," I said evenly. Tessa's spoon paused midair. She recovered. "Of course," she said. "No rush." But there was rush in her eyes. It ran along the edges like a fox. That night, when the house was a dark whisper, I pressed record and spoke softly into the little device. "My name is Sara Whitlow. This is my home. On this date, my son and his wife presented documents for me to sign. I have not signed. I will not sign." I set the recorder beside my grandmother's porcelain night lamp and slept. Deeply. It was the first real sleep I'd had in months. Part 2. Paper trails and quiet doors. Aisha worked like Dawn, quiet, thorough, inevitable. She pulled property records from the county site. She found a notary stamp attached to the draft deed dated Saturday when the notary office was closed. She called the clerk. She requested a pre-filing hold if anything bearing my parcel number arrived. "People assume paper is neutral," she said to me over the phone. "It isn't. It leans toward whoever holds it carefully. We're going to hold it very carefully. At my house, I cleaned and waited. I wiped the baseboards and waited. I brushed Murphy oil soap along the banister and waited. When grief doesn't know where to go, it goes to the hands. On Thursday, the first threat arrived, disguised as helpfulness. A text from Tessa. "We'll swing by at 7 to pick up the signed pages. I ordered a thermostat for you. Heat's old. You're welcome." I typed and deleted again. Then I wrote, "Don't come tonight. I'll message after my review. No apology, no exclamation point to soften the edge, just my boundary clean." At 7:15 there was a knock anyway, a little too loud, a little too long. I didn't open. The porch camera blinked its red dot with patient memory. Michael's voice came through the wood. "Mom?" "Please. This is simple." Tessa's tone landed like a coin in a dish. "She's stalling." I stood inside my quiet kitchen with my hands on the counter and counted 10 breaths. The camera caught their retreat. The recorder caught my own, even breath. The next morning, the utility bill posted online. I logged in out of habit. The auto-pay I'd kept for their sake was redirected to a different account number. Aisha's email lit my screen 10 minutes later with a carbon copy to the utility legal department. "Dear Counsel, any account changes made without the life tenant's explicit written consent should be reversed. Please note Ms. Whitlow's status as protected customer under Arizona Revised Statute Section 4400, etc." It wasn't just the house anymore. It was the story they were trying to write about me, confused, pliable, grateful. I sat with that for a long time. Then I did something small and radical. I baked cinnamon bread and took a warm loaf to Mr. Cho across the street. He had lived there since the mines closed, a widower with a quiet garden and a kinder gaze than most. "Smells like Saturdays from Korea," he said, breaking a piece with his fingers. He nodded at my porch camera. "Those little lights see more than people think. Yours caught the time your boy came late last week. If you need it." "Would you send me a copy?" I asked, the breath catching in a place that felt like gratitude and sorrow folded together. He patted my wrist. "Of course, Sarah. Paper keeps us honest." By the weekend, we had 3 clean slices of proof, the draft deed with the Saturday notary, the porch footage time-stamped and crisp, screenshots of texts that never imagined a judge could read. Aisha assembled them like stones in a wall. "If they file," she said, "we file faster." They filed on Monday. A courier came at 10 with a pale blue envelope. Notice of transfer. It was stamped as if the stamp itself could make a lie legal. My heart thudded once, a slow drum, and then Aisha's number lit up my phone. "Do you want the good news or the good news?" she asked. "Please, both," I said, and surprised myself by laughing. Good news one, the county clerk flagged it the moment it hit the system, notary irregularity. Good news two, I already filed our petition for declaratory judgment and injunction. We will do this in daylight, Sara. Courtroom, transcript, oath. I looked around my little kitchen, the blue mug, the rosemary, the quiet, and realized I wasn't afraid of the daylight at all. I was hungry for it. That evening, Michael came alone. He stood on the porch with his ball cap in both hands, the way he used to hold his backpack on the first day of school. I opened the door because I was still his mother, and because boundaries aren't fences with spikes. They are gates with latches. "Mom," he said, eyes wet. "Tess said it was normal. Everyone does it. TOD deeds. She said it's smart." There it was, the apology wrapped in deflection. "I believe you love your boys," I said. "I believe you've been scared. I do not believe this was normal." He swallowed. "Are you going to punish us?" "Punish," I repeated, and set my palm on the doorframe. "No. Protect, I will protect what is mine to protect. If you are wise, you will learn from that." He looked past me into the house he grew up in. I let him. Then I closed the door gently, because gentleness is still a kind of strength. Part 3. Courtroom air. The courthouse in Santa Mesa has windows like eyelids. They let in wide squares of desert morning. On the day of our hearing, I wore my navy dress and my mother's cameo. Aisha wore a gray suit and the expression of a woman who trusts her file. We sat at the petitioner's table. Across from us, Tessa had hired a lawyer with cufflinks so bright you could use them to find your way out of a canyon. Michael sat beside them, shoulders rounded, jaw tight. When Judge Alvarez entered, the room stood. He had the kind of presence that makes a person sit straighter without noticing. He looked at the docket, then at me, then at the stack of exhibits in front of him. "Counsel," he said to Aisha, "why don't you walk me through the posture?" Aisha's voice held the steadiness of a metronome. "Your Honor, Ms. Whitlow holds a vested life estate in the property. Respondents attempted to cloud title by filing a purported transfer on death deed with an irregular notary acknowledgement. We seek a declaratory judgment confirming her exclusive right to occupy and control, the expungement of the filing, and a protective order enjoining further attempts to encumber." She clicked to the first exhibit on the screen, the Saturday Notary. The judge's eyebrows climbed a single notch. The second exhibit, porch camera footage, time-stamped, the voices clear. When Tessa's words played, "She hates conflict. She'll fold." A ripple moved through the gallery like wind through dry grass. The third, texts about simplifying while stripping. Tessa's attorney rose for cross, but his questions slid off the paper like water off wax. "Isn't it true," he tried, "that your client has been forgetful?" "Isn't it true," Aisha replied without turning her head, "that your notary worked on Saturday in a county that does not permit Saturday certification?" He tried again. "My clients were merely attempting to streamline—" "Streamline what?" Judge Alvarez said mildly without looking up. "The life out of a life estate?" For a moment no one spoke. The judge removed his glasses and folded them. He turned to Michael. "Mr. Whitlow," he said, voice neither cruel nor kind, only clean, "do you understand what a life estate is?" Michael glanced at Tessa, then at me. "It means my mom can live there," he mumbled. "It means," the judge said, "that until Sara Whitlow chooses otherwise, that house is her body in the eyes of this court. You do not deed out a body from under its soul." Something inside me, something small and winged and stubborn, lifted its head. Then Aisha did something I did not expect. She called me. I took the stand, and when I raised my right hand, it did not shake. "Ms. Whitlow," Aisha said gently, "why are you here today?" "For quiet," I said, surprising myself. "For peace under my own roof. To be seen as a person who writes her own name and reads every line before she signs." She nodded. "Have you signed any deed transferring your house?" "No." "Have you granted anyone current power to sign for you?" "No." "Do you hate your son?" she asked, and a small sound moved through the room. I looked at Michael. He was 29 again for a flash. The year he cried when his first child was born, the way he touched Eli's tiny foot as if it were a glass bird. "No," I said, "I love him enough to let the law teach him what my softness did not." There was a pause, and in that pause I felt the thick, bright thread of my mother's voice long ago. Kindness is not the opposite of clarity. It can be the very form of it. Judge Alvarez returned from chambers 20 minutes later with a stapled order. "On the petition of Ms. Whitlow," he read, "it is ordered, 1. The purported transfer on death deed is void and expunged. 2. Ms. Whitlow's exclusive possessory rights are affirmed. 3. Respondents are enjoined from attempting further encumbrance or utility interference. 4. Costs to petitioner. Further, this record will reflect the court's concern regarding undue influence. Family counseling is recommended. Counsel will prepare a separate order for the protective provisions." The gavel came down with a sound like a door clicking home. Tessa stood too fast, the chair legs scraping. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Michael's eyes shone with the confused, aching relief of someone who has finally been told the truth and doesn't know what to do with it. I exhaled and felt the air belong in my lungs. Part 4. The Shape of After. Victory is not a parade. It's sweeping crumbs into your hand and wiping the counter with a damp cloth. It's calling the utility company and setting the auto-pay back to your own account, quietly. It's changing the porch bulb and trimming the bougainvillea that keeps threatening the mailbox. For a while the house sounded different, as if it were listening too. I cooked for 1 and put leftovers into glass containers with neat labels. On Wednesdays I brought Mr. Cho a loaf, and he brought me cuttings, basil, mint, baby jade. We traded green for warm. Michael kept his distance. A week passed. 2. On the 3rd Sunday he sent a message. "I'm taking a class at church. Boundaries, it's a lot." "I'm sorry, Mom. I read it twice and did not reply right away, not out of anger but respect, for his path, for mine." That night I set 2 plates and ate at 1. The empty chair did not accuse me. It just sat like a faithful dog who knows the door will open when it opens. I kept seeing women at the library, the market, the pharmacy, women my age with faces like folded towels carrying more than bags. Their stories bumped into mine in small talk. "My daughter says I don't understand online banking," one murmured, fumbling with her card. "My nephew wants to help with my mail," another said, eyes sliding away. I wrote Aisha and Pastor Lena and asked if we could host something simple in the church hall. "Read before you sign, a Saturday clinic for women." We made coffee, printed sample documents with red arrows. This clause means someone else can sell your car. This line means you can be moved without your yes. We practiced saying no, thank you. I'll have my attorney review this. We practiced it until the room hummed with the boys' choir warming up down the hall, and a new sentence in our mouths. "I am not powerless." It spread. The community college asked me to speak to their adult education class. The library put our hand out by the tax forms. The county clerk called Aisha and asked for permission to post our Saturday notary warning on the website. "Calm winds. Paper wins," Aisha said, and we smiled like people who had both known a winter and seen how faithful the sun can be. As for Tessa, she stayed sharp and far for a time. Then, in late spring, she came to my porch and stood where the light could see her. "I brought the kids to the park," she said. Her voice was thinner. "Michael has the car." I wanted to say I was wrong, not about needing help, we did, but about deciding you were the help I waited. She swallowed. "I'm working with a woman's group," she said. "Some of the things I did were what was done to me. Not an excuse, just a map I'm trying to redraw. Maps can be burned or folded or redrawn. They can also be set on the table between people who remember how to read them." "Thank you for telling me," I said. "Change is heavy at first." She nodded. The boys came up the path and hugged my waist like anchors. I held them and felt the strong smallness of their lives. I did not invite anyone inside. I did not have to. Love is not a key you hand to every knock. Sometimes it is a chair on the porch, 2 paper cups of lemonade, and 10 minutes of sunshine. Part 5, a very quiet ending. On the first truly hot day of summer, I painted the little back room the color of early peaches and set up a narrow table beneath the window. On it, my mother's sewing machine, a pot of mint, a shoebox of photographs newly labeled in black pen. Above it, I hung a frame with 3 things. My life estate deed, a copy. Aisha would scold otherwise. Mr. Cho's porch camera timestamp, printed like a tiny certificate of the ordinary saving the day. A note card with 4 words in my own hand. Calm winds, paper wins. In the afternoons, I taught a free forms class at the library, how to read, where to sign, when not to. A young clerk from the county sat in once and took notes. "We should put this in high school," she said. I agreed. Michael came on Sundays sometimes. We began in the yard, as if the lemon tree could shield us from the sudden flare of old habits. He brought the boys. They picked the fallen lemons and made sculptures in the dirt. Sometimes he came alone. "I didn't know," he said one evening, watching the porch light blink on, "how much I took your softness for permission." "I taught you some of that," I said. "I thought love meant saying yes until the no's took care of themselves." He nodded. "I'm learning to tell the boys a different story. That's all any of us can do," I answered. The court's injunction sat in a neat file beneath the phone. I didn't look at it often, but I liked knowing it existed the way I like knowing there is a spare key in the urn by the mailbox. You don't live in your tools, you just keep them oiled. One evening in August, when the air smelled like hot dust and brewing rain, I opened the mailbox and found a drawing from Eli. 2 stick figures on a porch. One had a round bun and a big smile. The other had skinny legs and a cape. "Super Nana and me," he wrote in careful letters. In the corner, a speech bubble from the caped stick. "Read it first." I laughed until I coughed, then pressed the paper to my chest and stood very still. If you ask me now what victory felt like, I won't tell you about the gavel or the judge's order. I'll tell you about peace, the way it sounds when the ice maker knocks once at midnight and you are not afraid, the way a blue mug warms your palms, the way a porch light hums and you know it is your light on your porch, shining for whomever you decide to let climb the steps. Betrayal did not define me. Response did. If my story finds you at a table with papers you don't understand and a voice in the next room telling you to hurry, don't. Read it first. Call someone who loves the law more than they love your signature. Practice the sentence out loud. I am not powerless. It feels strange the first time. It feels like breathing the second. Tonight I will water the rosemary, stack the bowls, and turn the porch light on low. The house will settle around me the way an old sweater learns your shoulders. I will sleep with the window cracked and wake early to the small, stubborn song of a desert bird. This is not revenge. This is a return. This is the quiet, ordinary, durable ending I wanted all along. And when I fold the day closed, I will say it once more. just for myself. Calm wins, paper wins, I'm home.